if you're new to exercise, I would begin here. So let's say you just came to me and said, Josh, I've never really exercised before. Where do I begin? I have these goals, but I'm just so confused what to do. I'm going to break it down for you today. So let's create a triangle. Okay, so before I go on to that, let's have a look here. First, we want to think about your personal growth. So instead of me just guessing where you're at and what you've been through and what your injuries are, what your pain are, what your limitations are, I would ask you straight away, what are your limitations? What are your restrictions? Do you have any pain? Do you have any injuries you're recovering from? Have you had any surgeries? Or are you all good and you can just think, you know what, I'm good to go. So I know I'm imagining I'm talking to you right now, but this is what I want you to paint in your mind, asking yourself, okay, what are my injuries? Do I have any restrictions? Do I have any limitations? Those sort of questions, because before you start your exercise journey, we want to take these into account. Okay, so let's just say you have a bit of pain in your low back. And let's also say that you don't have too much energy at the minute. Maybe you have chronic fatigue, or maybe you have something which is really holding you back energy-wise. Okay, cool. So now we're aware of that. Now we can structure this whole pyramid in a way which is congruent to your health, and we're not just guessing anything. Okay, so start there. Ask yourself, what are my limitations? Cool. Then from there, we want to ask, what's your goal? Where would you like to get to? What would you like to work on? Is there a specific task you want to get stronger in? Do you have a specific goal for your everyday life? Is it to have the strength to get up from chairs? Is it to have the strength and the balance to get up the stairs? Play with your grandchildren. So we want to think about, what's my North Star? What's my goal? And that goal, by the way, can be, you know what, I just really, really want to feel good in myself physically, because I've never really had that physical element to my life, which is absolutely cool. No problem at all. That is your goal, and that's a great goal. So we want to think, okay, what am I aiming for? So we know what the restrictions are, the limitations, because this is going to start the journey. And we know what our North Star, what we're aiming towards, that motive, right? What's the drive to partake in this exercise journey? Cool. Then we would begin. So for this, I'm just going to mainly put two things. Balance. Okay, so balance and flexibility. This is where I would begin. So this is what I used to take new clients through if they'd never really exercised before. And what I mean by balance and flexibility, and there's many arenas within these two phrases, but it is essentially me having a look at your body. So you're having a think with your own body. Where do I need to balance out? What muscles are short and tight? What muscles are long and weak? So essentially, where am I feeling short and tight that I'll have to stretch out, that I have to create more mobility, more flexibility? We're thinking opening up your body. Because think of it like this. If I was to skip this phase and I didn't look at your restrictions, I didn't look that your hamstrings are really tight, that your glutes are switched off, if your spinal erectors are weak, therefore there's a lot of pain around there. So we need to have a look at mobility around that area, have a look at your shoulder restriction. If I didn't take that into account, if you don't take that into account, and you're adding weight to the body. You know, you're going to the gym, now we're going to add weight to the shoulder. We're going to add weight to your spine. If you're loading a body which is very tense and restricted and there's lots of short, tight areas, that loading can really aggravate your body, because your body is already in a state of potential tension, potential stress. Therefore, adding more load to your body through weights is adding more stress to that body, if that makes sense. So that can lead down a path of injury and actually not getting off on the right foot. You might train for a week and then suddenly, my shoulder's popped, or I've got this excruciating hip pain, or my low back, I can't lift weight. I've lost my chalk now. We're going grey. So this is so important. I'd spend about 4 weeks at least, and obviously I'm just speaking as general here, I spend about 4 weeks opening your body out, opening your hips out. Let's get that shoulder and your thoracic mobility good. Let's have a look at your neck. How does your neck move? Can it rotate? Can it look down without restriction or without pain? Let's look at your ankle stability, because your knee will be affected by that, which is going to affect your hips. Let me look at your core function. Is your lower abdominal switched off, which is causing low back pain? So these are the things that I would take you through. You're probably thinking, what did you mean? Don't worry, I'm just speaking as as an example here for you to think about why this is so important. So, for you to take away, a good place to begin is, let me just do some mobility work, whole body. If I'm not going to get an assessment, let me just start opening out my body. Have a look at some of Josh's posts. See if I can do some ankle work, some hip work, some spinal work for a good 4 weeks, and see how my body feels then. Cool? So we start with balance. We start with flexibility, mobility for the future of adding load to the body. And I've seen personally in my own experience with clients, about 4 weeks on that is really good. Okay, cool. Moving on to the next phase, which is, I've probably just spelled that wrong, base conditioning. So base conditioning is now me looking at specific body weight patterns. Now, me personally, I look at the primal movements, and these are the movement patterns that humans are really designed to move from. So we have, let me just put them over here. We have the squat. So I would look at your squat pattern, all body weight. I'd see how you squat. I'd see how your spine looks. I'd look at your ankles. I'd look at your knees. I'd ask if there's any restrictions. So this is you asking yourself, how's my squat? How does my squat feel? Does it feel natural? Does it feel really tight here? That's the first pattern I'd look at. So this is really getting your body to move how it's designed to move, once again, before adding weight, before adding load, stress. The next pattern would be a lunge pattern. So having a look at that lunge motion. How does it look as the client, as you, steps forward and pushes back? Is there restriction? Is there balance issues? Is there pain? Does it feel natural? These are the things I'm looking for. So looking at your lunge. So squat, lunge. Then I'd look at a push. So how is your push strength? Push is a vital arena, let's say, I can't think of the right word, a vital motion to get strong off, because we push ourselves off from the ground, we push ourselves off from the chair, and doing other, obviously, many different push patterns in life. But push, I'd have a look at the push strength. My go-to is really just seeing a push-up, maybe starting from a wall, then working down towards the floor. Cool. Then I'd look at a pull strength. How does your body look pulling either weight towards you or pulling your body off the ground? So we're looking at the pulling pattern. And I'm going to explain why these are so important in a second. So I'd look at the squat, lunge, push, pull. I then look at how your body twists. How does the spine look as it twists? Is there restriction there? Is there pain as you twist there? Is your low back, your sacrum, giving signals there that, hey, do not go in this position? And now I'm gathering information. I'm gathering information to build you up towards your goal. If I skip all this, I'm guessing. If I just say, let's throw some weight on you, and if I haven't gone through these, path to injury, path to pain, and that's not what we want. Because if you're starting an exercise journey, we want to think long term. We want to think forever now. Cool, so squat, lunge, push, pull, twist. Then I would look at the bend, one of the most needed requirement movements in everyday life, bending to pick something up, hinging forward, you drop something off the floor, picking up your grandchildren. That bend pattern is crucial. So I'm looking at how you look during a bend pattern, during a deadlift pattern. So squat, lunge, push, pull, twist, bend, and then gait. So gait is walking, jogging, or sprinting. So how does it feel when you walk? How does it feel? How do your hips feel? How does your spine feel? And with this, once again, I would spend a good 4 weeks. I mean, sometimes I've gone through this for 6 weeks. If someone has to learn all of these patterns, maybe hasn't done them before, and I'm building them up, 4 to 6 weeks of practicing these movement patterns. And why these are so important. You and I are designed to move from these patterns because these are the exact patterns that you and I learned when we were evolving, when we were developing. So when we were in utero, we were starting to twist, we were starting to rotate around. Then when we were born, we were starting to develop the push and the pull pattern. So you see how babies push and pull themselves up. Now we're developing the spinal curvatures. Then we eventually get into, is it squat or bend first? Then eventually we get into the squat pattern. As babies pick themselves up, go into that squat pattern, and they're also coupling that with bending, right? They're in the squat pattern, they're bending for things, they're reaching for things. And then eventually to standing, the lunge pattern where we're like, or a baby is lunging for things across the corner, getting curious, and then to eventually standing, which is gait, which is walking. So these patterns we are designed to move from. So if I start you there and see if there's any imbalances, if there's any, I don't really like the word weakness, but I can't think of the right word, any patterns within these areas that you're restricted in, again, and if I don't look at them and I'm adding weight to your body, could cause an injury. So spending 4 to 6 weeks on these, getting strong, getting more mobile, getting used to these patterns, letting your joints, your tissues, your fascia, all getting used to these primal patterns. You don't have to do that ever again, really. You'll only have to go through this phase once. Of course, if you just want to do a body weight conditioning session with these, I do that all the time. But if you go through this phase and be patient with yourself, you're setting yourself up long term. Cool. Cruising through. And then we can add weight. Then we can add load to the body. Because we've built your body up. We've conditioned it slowly. We've balanced out your body. We've got your joints. We've got your muscles to be mobile, to be more flexible, so they can withstand weight, withstand load. And we've got your body used to the movement patterns that we are going to add weight to. Because all gym patterns come from these patterns. Squat, lunge, push, pull, twist, bend. They all originate from those patterns. So I've built you up, or you've built yourself up in these patterns, feeling strong, feeling able, joints feeling good, to be in a good position to now add load, to add weight to the body. Now this is going to be very specific to your goal. There's so many different strength exercises. But here, now you're in a good spot to train strength forever. I can't promise you'll never have an injury or you'll never, tweak your elbow a little bit if you're pushing a new weight. But because we built these two up, you're ready for strength. You're ready to add load to the body. You're ready to develop more and more strength, enhance your strength. And then the last phase, which is the area that a lot of people tend to go for first, and that's power. That's explosive movements. That's, you see the HIIT classes, the body's jumping all over the place. And there's nothing wrong with that if we're conditioned in these. So if you're thinking, you know what, I'm going to start HIIT class, I'm going to start jumping around, have a think. Have you gone through these first? Have you built your body up to this? Because if you go straight to this, which I saw time and time again as a trainer in a gym in a health club for 8 years, a lot of people go straight to this, but they don't have the flexibility or the mobility on board in their shoulders. They don't have the base conditioning. They don't have the lunge pattern, the squat pattern. And now they're adding weights whilst jumping around on limbs which are in a vulnerable position. So if you're thinking this, have a think first. Have you done all this? Have you built yourself up here? These two being the biggest areas to look at when building your exercise journey. Okay, have I overwhelmed you? How are you feeling? So look, this is just what I want you to think about. I want you to think about balancing out your body for 4 to 5 weeks first. I want you to have a look at these base conditioning movements, squat, lunge, push, pull, twist, bend, gait. Get used to those patterns. 4 to 6 weeks, there's no rush. Then you can start to add a load to the body. Not to say you can't lift weights in these phases, but I'm just saying if you've never exercised, you want to have a look at these to make sure you're conditioned in these areas before thinking about these two. And trust me, this is the way for long-term training, sustainable training. If you go straight to these two, it's a way to getting injured very quickly. And I don't want you to get injured if you're starting your exercise journey. I know it's probably a lot to take in, so please ask me any questions below. But this is just what I used to take clients through, and hopefully has given you a bit of an understanding of, you know what, I'm here, now I know roughly the journey to go on. Thanks for your time. I hope that was helpful.